Appreciate all of you. I'll say a quick opening statement. Obviously we didn't do enough to win the football game and didn't deserve to win the football game, but I'm proud of how disciplined we're playing. We're just not making enough plays. So that's kind of my evaluation as we got done in the broad perspective in terms of watching the film. So with that, I'm sure you got a lot of questions, but we're looking forward to this week. A good day of practice, and now we've got to, obviously get our eyes set on Purdue, which they did Sunday night. They came out and had a really good practice Sunday night. So with that, open it for questions.
I feel like you guys got away with the way you guys played. I mean, at the line of scrimmage, how did you grade out, so to speak?
We're very – the offensive line hasn't played together very long, with 4 guys going in the spring, and then also the amount of youth we have up front and maybe inexperience. I thought we played okay. I think we'd have lower pad level. I think we've got to be able to finish blocks. I think we have to be able to sustain on our man and finish and move people. And we didn't do that enough. And, that goes back to me. So we've got to get them to do it.
I mean, is that mechanics or is that just want to, or what is that?
It's a lot of things. In terms of fundamentals, technique, every coach teaches things differently. And if you're able to get the same staff for a long period of time, right, you can continue to get better at those same fundamentals and techniques and things that coaches teach. When you have your third head coach in 3 years, sometimes that's a little bit harder because you have new systems, you have new teachers, you have new coaches, you have new ways of doing things, which, again, it's hard to master something. We talked about that in the spring. If you're not in there in our system offensively, defensively, and special teams, and you're not taking reps in the spring, how can you develop, right, but also master that whole thing without time? Right? It's a culmination. Being able to master something is a culmination of many reps over and over and over and over and over. And that's what we're getting at. It's just a day-by-day process.
PJ was maybe got away with some things in the first 3 games that either you didn't or went backwards in that 4th game?
Well, I think you go back to whether you win or lose, what we do is we go back to how we played the game. Right? It's a great question. And that's why we have that chart over to your right. And when we lose in the turnover battle, we lose the game. Right? When you lose on 3rd down, you have a higher percent to lose the game. When you lose on average plays on 1st and 2nd down, you have a better chance of losing the football game. When you lose in the special teams compartment, you have an opportunity to lose football games. When you don't score in the red zone, when you're supposed to score, you lose a football game. So you go back to why the result was the result. Same thing as I said weeks ago. I said I didn't talk about winning in front of our team after we won. It was, what do we have to do to get better? How did we get to that result? Okay. But as a coach, you find all the things your players aren't very good at, and you constantly continue to develop them in those areas. And that's what we'll continue to do. With the youth and the experience we have to. And there's a lot of guys out there that are playing for the first time. Those aren't excuses. Whoever's on that field has to play at an elite level. That's on me, 100%, period.
PJ, when do you decide on Winfield's availability?
As soon as I know, to be honest with you. I'm leaning towards no. I have not made that decision yet, though. But again, it's your best player on defense. The game plan is designed around your best player on defense. Your best player on defense gets hurt, and one has a great game. But everything was designed with 11 to be on one the entire game, right? And but again, we got to get more players that can play at that level, and that's skillful through recruiting in 18 and 19 and develop the players we have. I mean, that's just the facts of life of what we have, and we'll continue to do that. And he'll be back at some point, and if he's not, he's not. But we're going to make sure he's healthy when he comes back. I know that.
And when in the last few weeks, I know it's just been practice, but what have you seen that maybe you can share a comment on a little bit with Tanner Morgan?
In terms of what way? I'm sorry.
Just his progress, or
yeah, I think he's getting a lot better. But I think he's getting a lot better. I tell you what, from when he came in January to where he is now, exponential growth in every area. Not only just football, but in his life. Football and his life are incredibly important to Tanner Morgan. The thing about Tanner is I don't want to have to pull his red shirt. I'm pulling enough red shirts. And I think that tells you where we are depth-wise, right? And the issues we talked about in the spring, this is the same issues we're talking about now in the season, that everybody said, yeah, you're going to be this, yeah, you're going to be that, yeah, these guys haven't played, yeah, you haven't this, yeah, you don't have this, yeah, you don't have that. Well, that's what we have, right, until we get to another year and then another year, and when you can start developing that depth. But with Tanner, you don't want to pull it. And we're doing everything we can not to be able to run Tanner, or not Tanner, but Connor, as much as I want to be able to. You got to keep him healthy. You know, you saw what Maryland's third-string quarterback did. He wasn't a third-string quarterback. He was the third number one guy. It's basically their issue they have. That's a good problem to have. And we don't have that right now. And so what we have to do is make sure we keep Connor upright, keep him healthy, continue to get him to distribute the ball, and continue to develop the other quarterbacks behind him, but not do something that's going to this is tough in year zero, right? This is what I've been through before. Don't sacrifice what you really want down the road for what you want right now. Right? This is a completely new culture. It's completely new. Nothing's connected from years past in terms of depth and culture and all those other things. Same thing when you're making decisions as a head football coach. I'm making decisions based on years in the past. I'm making decisions on now that affect our future and our future that affect now. And so for Tanner, that's the tough part because he's progressing really well, but I want to keep him as a red shirt.
Coach, I know we talked about Denver yesterday, and then I saw him as the number 3 on the depth chart. Is there a change in his status?
He's back on the team. Okay. But just because, again, it's when this program, we are going to hold people accountable for their actions, period, right? And so when you don't make the right decisions, this is a privilege, not a right. And so just because you come back doesn't mean now from injury, you can have your spot back. I'm big on that. You get hurt and you had a spot, you walk in, you should never lose your starting spot to injury. You should at least have an opportunity to keep it based on a circumstance that you cannot control. When you can control the circumstance, right, and you can control the choice, and you make that choice, and when you come back, well, now you got to show why you should be where you were. Because other people that were here that are doing the right things have elevated their play while you were gone. So that's the easiest way to describe it. But I was very impressed the last few days with him.
PJ, are teams throwing at Chenault?
I think teams are throwing it at everybody, to be honest with you, Chip. But what's that?
It seems like they're going at him a lot. Is there anything?
Well, he's one of our best players at this point, right? He's one of our best players. So, you know, it's the biggest thing of, okay, well, if you help them, you take another person out of the box. Well, you lack depth at the defensive line. We're already playing freshmen. And then, you know, so now all of a sudden the secondary, right? If you put them in man covers, well, there's 2 freshmen now in the secondary. So, but that's just the issues that are there. And they're my issues, right? That's my challenge. That's why I took the job. That's why I love it. It's a challenge, you know? And that's why I came here, because of a challenge. And that's the fun part. And they're going to develop. And one thing about freshmen that's kind of cool is they're freshmen 1 year, most of the time. And then they move on to sophomores. And then one day they become upperclassmen, right? And then finally seniors. So it's that progression of talent and the patience you have to have with development. You can't just say, okay, well, you're going to play, but I have to develop you as a senior now. If you don't get there, I'll be so frustrated and mad at you. Every player has their own natural progression that they're going to have to do. You can't teach 500-level courses in college before you've taught the 100 level. You can't do that. And this is part of a natural progression and natural process, and that's why I'm here.
Coach, what improvements do the run game need to make for the rest of the Big Ten season?
We got to run the ball better. But let me paint a picture for you. It's obvious, okay, for everybody that's watching that's gaining tips from our interview. We're going to run the ball. But we're not going to just run the ball and say, well, that didn't work. We got to come up with this completely new scheme. We're going to do what our offensive linemen can do, right? I would not be a very good coach if I'm going to ask them and demand them to do things they can't do. Remember, the first time we found out what they can do was when? Training camp, right? 2 months ago. We found out what we could really do as a team, right, in our system. So what we had to do is invest in what we had to do with the type of talent we have. We had to invest in that. Then what do our running backs do well? What do our tight ends do well? What are their strengths? What's our quarterback's strengths? Promote people's strengths, eliminate their weaknesses. And in practice, make their weaknesses become strengths and strengths become instincts. That's what a coach does. And for our run game, we've got to run it better. But for us to run the ball better, guys on the outside have to make more plays. Okay, but we don't have the fifth-year senior that's caught 120 balls that you can just say, I'm going to rely on that bell cow. You don't have that. So you got Philip Howard, who had a really nice game, right, redshirt freshman. Mark Williams is going to be in the rotation, who's a redshirt freshman. You've got Ty, who's a sophomore, who's playing and being the starter for the first time. And Ty reminds me, that game reminded me of Corey Davis back in year 1 and 2. Corey Davis wasn't Corey Davis in year 4. He was Corey Davis in to Corey Davis in year 1 and 2. Corey dropped a lot of balls in year 1 and 2. He had to fail a lot to gain the experience that he knew he could do it in any situation. I'm sure Ty would want that ball coming back to him, right? We're going in to score to make it 14-7. It gets tipped through his hands, interception. Now it's 14-7 Terrapins. But on that drive, as they drive, a ball goes through our hands on an interception. So maybe it's 14-7, maybe it's 7-7 after all that. But we have to take advantage of the opportunities that come. We're not deep enough and experienced enough to miss on very opportunistic times and expect to beat teams in the Big Ten. We got to play our style of football, and we got to play it really well. Ball control, hold on to the ball, get takeaways, create short fields, win on special teams, win on field position. That's the team we have.
For an experienced guy like Rodney Smith, then, what are his strengths and what does he really lead the offense like?
I think he's got great vision. I think he's got great balance. And I think he does really well in pass protection. He's very smart. He's just got to continue to get better, right? But again, going into another new system, right? This is a new system. And sometimes when you come in, no matter what team you're coming into, sometimes that's very difficult to do, to teach everybody new systems. And then you get a different team than it was last year, completely different, with a lot of decisions that have to be made. And you know, I don't like to compare year 1 coaches to year 1 coaches, but that's why it's year 1 or year 0 for a reason. It's tough. And we have a different way of coaching, maybe than he was coached in the past, or maybe this guy was coached in the past. But this is how we coach, and this is our system. And that goes back to the players not picking me picking them, right? But he's a phenomenal running back, and so is Shannon. And they're working better collectively, right? But we have to do a better job of sustaining blocks. It comes down to this. When you're doing things for people, you'll never quit. When you're doing things for yourself, you'll quit. And our team has to, our team, not our group of people, but our team has to understand that it's not about you. It's about everybody else. And they have to, at some point, when it gets really hard, they have to be doing it for somebody or you'll quit. And that was the same thing I said in year 1 at the past place. And we got to a point where everybody did it for each other. Never for themselves. Though everybody on the team, every person in the organization. Very difficult to get to, but that's how you win championships. And if that's what championship cultures look like, and if we haven't had it for a long time, it's hard to be able to say, well, what is it missing? Right? We know what it's missing, and we have to be able to continue to apply it and get it better every day. And everything starts with me, getting everybody to do that every day.
Did your path ever cross with Joe Tiller, and then obviously there'll be a lot of emotion in that stadium. You explained, I assume a lot of your players have no idea his impact.
Yeah, it's amazing who players know and who they don't know. Yeah. Names that you throw out, Chip, like, do you know this person? It's like, who? Like, wait a minute. Who I was talking to Big O yesterday, and I threw out a name. He had no idea who it was. Anyway, I couldn't believe he didn't know a name. And but Joe Tiller, I mean, he's one of the best football coaches in Big Ten history. But not only one of the best coaches, one of the best people. He changed Purdue football forever and set up one of the best tenures of any coach that ever coached at Purdue and ever in the Big Ten. And what a gracious man. I got a chance to meet him once or twice, but I didn't know him very well. But that's not for me to judge or not judge. What we need to do as a Big Ten institution is to support him and his family, support the Purdue family, know that we're going to be there for them, and that we support everything they're about in terms of the Joe Tiller era and what he stood for. And so we will wear a logo that we've designed. It's really neat in terms of what the logo has, and we'll wear that on Saturday to support Purdue football.
What sticks out about Purdue on film?
There's a lot of things. I mean, obviously, it's another, it's a first-year head coach. Everything's new, but Coach Brom's one of the best coaches in the country. He always has been, one of the best offensive minds in the game. He's really captivated Purdue. You can see it already. They've had 2 losses, and they've both been the top 25 teams where they've been extremely tight with Louisville, had the lead in Michigan, and then the other 2 teams they've blown out. So what they've done is they've got a quarterback there, number 11 and number 2. Number 11's failed so much he's been successful. If any of you listen to the Big Ten Media Days and you go back to listen to number 11's speech, that guy's a champion. He's a champion for life. Okay, David's a champion for life. So he's going to carry that over to the field. He's only a junior. And he failed so much as a youngster, that's what it takes, right? Go back to a quarterback when I had him at Western Michigan. He failed. He threw so many interceptions and no touchdowns. Well, he's the same kid that threw 34 with 3 picks, 34 touchdowns, 3 picks. You fail enough where you have enough scars that you have the courage to continue to play really well. That's what they have. And he's a really good quarterback. And another quarterback has a huge arm, maybe one of the biggest arms we'll play against all year, number 2. So they have quarterbacks that can distribute. They spread you out. They'll run, I think, every play in football, they'll run at least once throughout the game. It's amazing. It's awesome, right? From reverses to screens to flea flickers. The flea flicker is not going to be a surprise to any of you. It's just part of like, here comes inside zone. Oh, here comes the flea flicker. Like they're going to run those types of plays. And they put their players in the best position to be successful. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. And they apply the system to that. And their defense is very stingy. They got a really good front 4. They got an experienced linebacker core and secondary that's had a lot of success this year. And special teams, maybe the best punter we played against up to date. So, again, they have a lot of depth. If you look at their roster, you can tell Coach Hazel did a really nice job recruiting and setting it up with a lot of depth. They've got a lot of seniors on the team. Plus, behind them are a lot of juniors and sophomores. And that's where they're at. So they're a really good football team, and it's going to be a great matchup.
How do they handle the quarterback rotation? Because they both throw the ball a lot.
It's interesting. I don't know what their exact plan is, but they both play, and they both play at different times.
Not a set rotation. Sort
Not
of
necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily. I'm not sure. I don't know if I haven't seen it, Chip.
You mentioned how many young wide receivers you guys have. What kind of a job has Coach Simon done in developing all of them?
Yeah, and in the future, we're only going to get younger. You know, there are going to be 3 wideouts that come in that all are going to play next year. And so we'll be young again. Like I said, getting younger before we get better and more experienced. But Coach Simon, this is what he does. You know, Luke Getsy prior to him when we were at Western Michigan is now the wide receiver coach for the Green Bay Packers. It's just kind of the system that Jerry Sullivan, my former wide receiver coach when I played for the Niners, he developed. This is his system. This is his development of an NFL wide receiver that's done at the collegiate level. And, you know, Matt played for me, got that coaching. I'm very involved with the wideouts, but Coach Simon teaches them and coaches them. I mean, he's at a point, maybe a few years ago, I was a little bit more involved, kind of let myself become less involved with them because he's so good. He's a great teacher. He's very patient. Every day you're going to get Matt Simon's best, every day. And those wideouts know that. You're looking at some guys that have never played that are producing. Now, we're not perfect, right? But they're producing, and that's a credit to him. They're blocking well. They're running routes, you know, at a high level. They're becoming better in their technique. They're not perfect. We're not where we're going to be in the future, but you can see the process of growth. And those wideouts come out to practice, ready to practice, and want to practice. Today, they were the group that actually led the whole team. They had the best practice on anybody today.
One or two more. How do you assess Steven Richardson's play? I mean, he has a couple tackles, tackle for a loss. He's one of your best players. You know, he doesn't have the stats, but how do you assess how he's played so far?
Yeah, I'm not into stats at all. You know, he's playing his role really well, you know, and I think in the past game, you know, a lot of people are doing it in the first 4 games, a lot of quick game. There's not a ton of 5-step, 7-step drop, lots of timing passes. I mean, we're getting pressure. There's our PBUs, right, and pass breakups, and our quarterback pressures are up, right, from what we thought we'd possibly have. Now, our sacks aren't, but people are getting rid of the ball a lot quicker, and they know that. You know, we're getting a lot of pressure. They know we're going to blitz a lot, but Steven's providing and doing his role really well, and you know, we're going to continue to do things to get him free. But he's doing a really nice job. He's just got to keep getting better, you know, and that's the one thing. Same guy, same type of guy. 3 head coaches, 3 years, different systems, different coaches, different philosophies. That's hard to adapt, especially for a senior.
Coach, why do you have the geese decoys in here? Is that something they use for?
Those are just hunting season. We're in Minnesota, right? I don't know if it's geese. I'm kidding. Geese season or not. I'm not a big hunter. I think it's buck season or deer season now. Goose. It is goose season. All right, Mike. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I shot a pigeon one time in my life off a barn, and I got in trouble for it, and I never shot anything else again. But the geese are this. Geese fly in a V, and we're talking about developing leadership. There's a lot of people here that don't have experience that are expected to lead, and they've never done that, let alone lead a Division I football program in the Big Ten. And so the goose at the front of the V, that's the one that has to work the hardest. You know, the geese to the sides are the ones that draft them. The loudest geese are the ones in the back because they're encouraging everybody else to continue to fly. If one goose happens to leave the flock, there's another goose that leaves with them. There's no man or no goose left behind. And so we talk about we're going to take turns at the front leading this football team. And so that's what the geese are for. They're around everywhere. Sometimes they're the only person I get, or not person. Sometimes they're the only thing I get to talk to. So there's some in my office too.
PJ, how much emphasis have you and the staff put on avoiding targeting penalties?
The one thing I'll say is this: I think I opened up this statement with this. I think we're a very disciplined football team. We're playing disciplined football. We're just not making enough plays yet, right? And that's how I can measure coaches, players, program, movement, going in the right direction, culture being set, identity, all those things. So I'm very proud of how disciplined we're playing. We just got to play better. But, you know, in terms of the penalties, that's how I can be able to tell, is it a really disciplined team or is it not a disciplined team? So with our penalties down, you know, I never want to be the most penalized team, and I don't want to be the team that's like the least penalized. You want to be somewhere right in the middle. But again, it's not a stat that necessarily goes to winning and losing, but I think it shows the progression of a culture, that guys are really figuring it out, that if I do that, right? There were 3 instances we showed them this morning of people doing things after the game, after a win, beating a big team for the first time ever and doing something to the crowd. There's another instance of at the bottom of a pile, somebody sticking their fingers in somebody's eyes and eye gouging somebody, right? There's other instances, and we show our players that to make sure they understand how bad that can hurt a football team, right? And I think that's really important. To be able to make sure they understand how that can affect a football team moving forward. So it's my job to be able to continue to show that, because that's the identity of a football program, and that falls on me as well. So again, we're not where we're going to be. We are where we are. We're 0-0 in the Purdue week, and we have a lot to get better at, and we have a lot of people that have to continue to grow and play that maybe haven't. But like I said, there are no excuses. This is 100% on me. That loss is 100% on me, but we've moved on, and 0-0 in the Purdue season, and looking forward to playing well.
One more, or are we all done? Coach, can you talk a bit about your tight ends, how they're proceeding, or how they're progressing, and how that last game was for them?
Yeah, we got to continue to get them involved. You know, I thought Lingen had his best game. Maybe I haven't been here, talked about his career or not, what he's done in his career, but I thought he played like he should be playing. Did well in the passing game, did well in the running game. You know, we've got to be able to move the pocket for Connor as we continue to go, but do what our team does well. Just because you say move the pocket, there's 15 ways of moving the pocket. We have to do the 3 things that we're really good at moving the pocket with, and part of that is what you saw in the game, and we have to continue to evolve from that and continue to build on that, and we will. But I'm really proud of the tight ends, the way they played. There's a lot of positives to take from the game. There's always a lot of positives to take from the game, and we got to continue to make those even stronger. But then the weaknesses that we showed, we've got to fix. All right, everybody. Row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.